everybody. Welcome to the Southeastern Lacrosse Conference Preview Show. We are glad you could join us here today. Joining me, a couple of beauties over here, Dave Franklin and Patrick Strawn, and we are extremely excited to break everything down for you. We've got some coaches interviews. We're going to take a look at the regions and see exactly what's going on there, pick out some best teams, and then throughout it all, we're going to finally end up with taking a look at who we think might be some dominant players in this year's lacrosse season. Guys, we're going to start off here with the preview of the total rankings in the SELC, and this is the first year in a long time that, we've got two really solid teams that have made the pre-rankings and all the MCLA. We'll get to that a little bit later, but we'll take a look at it up here on the board and kind of get your guys' thoughts on the preview of the preseason rankings.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at the preseason poll, as far as the top 5 teams, it's pretty much as expected. Virginia Tech, who performed very well at last year's MCLA tournament, taking down BYU in the first round and then taking UCSB to overtime in the quarterfinals. Obviously, they're coming in at #1 with 9 first-place votes. Liberty, they had beaten Virginia Tech, their in-state rival, during the regular season. Virginia Tech had gotten the better of the Flames in the SELC championship, but obviously with 8 first-place votes, Liberty really deserves to be there at #2. Florida State was undefeated until they lost Liberty in the SELC tournament. Of course, Florida State had beaten Liberty in the regular season, so kind of a reverse of the Virginia Tech situation. South Carolina, really kind of the dark horse of the conference. They gave themselves a first-place vote and have really improved. They get their coach back from sabbatical, and a lot of exciting things to look forward from them. And then Georgia, 2013 tournament team, will be playing Liberty in the blackout game this year. Should be really exciting.
Let's take a look here at 12. And so on and so forth. Any teams here in that next grouping you see could kind of jump up into the top 10?
I think someone that could jump up really is Tennessee. They're sitting there at 12. That's a team that's really going to find their identity.
Way to pick the easy one.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You know what I'm saying. But also George Washington. Actually, Liberty knows this team very well. Their last year in Division II, that was their only regular season loss. They had a bit of a down year last season, but if they were able to turn things around, that's a team you could see etch their way in the top 10. And then also, you got Auburn, the Auburn Tigers. They're going to be looking into getting there as well.
What about you, Dave? You know this league very intimately. Is there anybody that perhaps has recruited in some serious talent that could jump up, maybe like a Wake Forest or anybody like that?
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt made their first tournament last year for the first time in almost a decade. They've started off their season slow, losing to Kennesaw State, a Division II team in the SELC, so it doesn't bode very well for the future. Not exactly the auspicious start that they were looking for. I agree with Pat. George Washington, it's only their 3rd year in the MCLA. They have a lot of great leadership. They're really moving forward. They have a new coach, J.D. Engelhardt. Their old head coach, Joe Oprin, has moved to Chicago but still stays in as director of operations. I think that they really have a lot of potential. Tennessee is very strong, and you mentioned Auburn. Auburn took Florida to overtime last night. Florida ended up pulling out the W. I mean, when you take a look at Auburn's changes in their coaching staff and the turnover in their personnel, they're a very big question mark. You don't really know if they're really going to be a contender or really fall to the bottom of the conference.
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's really tough to say. Pat, anybody that you know in the SELC that you think could jump up even higher, maybe in that kind of 50 to 20 range?
Well, I don't know about in that 50 to 20 range. I think NC State, that's a team that's definitely going to be on the rise. They're in the top 10 right now, but that's a team I look at that could potentially make their way in the top 25 this coming year. You saw them in the midnight game last season. They took Liberty down to the wire, and actually a lot of times kind of turned the tide in their favor. They're a very strong and gritty team. Actually, if they were a hockey team, that'd be your type of team. And so I'm definitely looking at that NC State team, the Wolfpack, definitely make some headway this year.
Now, when you say top 25, you mean top 25 in the MCLA, not just the SELC?
Yes, in the MCLA, obviously, because there's not 25 teams in the SELC.
Maybe a dark horse that could potentially win the SELC.
Absolutely.
Well, let's take a look here. We're going to go right into the Northeast region, as we just said. #1, Virginia Tech, and let's kind of jump into it. Supposedly the best team in the SELC, Liberty kind of right there with them, but as we all know, they knocked off the Flames last year in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly the favorite in the entire conference, let alone in the Northwest region of the SELC. Matt Schroeder coming in, his 2nd year taking over for Joel Knockless. Matt was a long-time assistant coach there, so he has some tenure with the program. They brought in some good offensive transfers from George Mason University, who wanted an upgrade in both their academic and their athletic experience on the lacrosse field. They graduated a lot of talent on defense. Josh, too, was an incredible long-stick midfielder. Yep. Sean Meacham, an all-conference and all-American performer, out as well. But they returned Brian Cooper in the goal. Joe Rittenhouse also is a familiar face on offense who could help push them forward. And as we'll talk about a little bit later, I mean, Virginia Tech is just very, very good at overcoming adversity. They lost one of their brothers this summer in a tragic accident in a lake in North Carolina. They lost one of their brothers in 2007 at the tragic shooting. Again, the turnover with Coach Coach Nocklis. The consistency is really the thing that helps Virginia Tech move forward with their tight-knit community, showing class and composure in order to overcome adversity.
Pat, does this team have a strength, or are they balanced throughout their lineup, on offense and on defense?
I think the key for Virginia Tech, it's definitely going to be their defense. And you saw right there last year, the defensive MVP of the SELC tournament was Brian Cooper. I watched this kid play actually in person when he came down for the last home game against Liberty. This kid's a stud, and that really locked the door. If it wasn't for Liberty's high-powered offense, he probably would have had averaged a lot less goals because Liberty just squeaked that one out. And you definitely saw him being a key difference maker. And then also, as Dave was just touching, there's a couple key guys that's definitely going to change things around for them. Andrew Bird and also their new captain and Brett Gallahan, they're going to command the offense for this team. But they're definitely a defensive-first team.
Is Cooper, in your opinion, the best player? Because, a lot of people say, around here at least, that Ethan Kamholtz is the guy in net in the SELC. Is Cooper just as good or better?
Well, when you spend time at Liberty, it's very easy to deduce that the goalie might be the most important position on the field. Ethan Kamholtz is a stud, maybe the best athlete in the entire conference. I think Cooper's up there. We'll see what these transfer students ultimately have to offer. But Andrew Baird, he's a transfer from Westminster out in Utah. Similar to Liberty, a team that spent a lot of time in MCLA Division II, made the jump to D1 and had an impact right away, made the tournament last year. Yep. So Coach Schroeder's very excited about Andrew Baird, and I think that he has every right to be.
We've always said, hey, Virginia Tech, great defensively. Scoring, though, has always been a bit of a struggle for them. Did they bring any guys in the offseason, that can help them in that area?
I don't think they probably potentially need to really worry about as far as scoring. If you can lock the door defensively and just do the things that they were doing last year, because last year they were one of the best defensive teams in all the SELC. They weren't worrying about scoring. Liberty, they're always going to be the top team in scoring, I believe, in the SELC, and one of the top teams in scoring in the whole nation. So I think if they're able to just worry things on their back end defensively, the offense will come to them. They don't need to try to rush it or worry about that.
Dave, what is their depth like? Liberty, tons of depth. We're kind of matching these two up. Do they have the depth to compete?
Oh, there's no question about it. Virginia Tech might have the best depth in the entire conference. They have 100 kids try out for the team every year. In the past regime under Joel Nocklis, he would try to keep as many players as possible. Now Matt Schroeder cuts his roster down to 50. He'll travel with around 35 to 40, depending on the scenario. So with the amount of talent that's in the Hokie Nation there in Blacksburg, their tryout process, the athletes that they ultimately bring in, it's impossible for them not to have depth.
Well, let's hear from their head coach. Monica McKenzie had the opportunity to catch up with Matt Schroeder earlier in the week.
Thanks, guys. I'm joined by Matt Schroeder, the Virginia Tech head coach. Now, first off, we want to congratulate you on winning the SELC championship last season. Now, this season you'll be looking to defend your title. Do you feel that you have a bit of a target on your back from that?
I think that's kind of the easy thing to say. I think that, we were really fortunate to come out on top last year. Tons of great teams in the SELC. I mean, what we're seeing now is, I think, especially last year, I think there were 4 or 5 teams that legitimately had a shot of winning it going into that championship weekend. And, we were fortunate to come out on top, played 3 really, really talented teams who I'm sure are just as hungry as we are to get back to that point. I think the way that we've set up this year, though, we have some teams on our schedule that we probably won't be favored against. I mean, certainly there are teams that we will be favored against, but this is really anybody's league this year, and we're just fortunate enough to be able to play, at a high level against some other really talented high-level teams as well. So we're really excited about the challenges that this year's brings. I mean, I think we have 7 ranked teams from the last poll that came out at the end of the year. So what a great opportunity, to compete at a high level and have the opportunity to compete against these teams. So it's really an honor, and we're excited about those challenges.
Now, in defending your title, you'll be doing that without some of your top players, 6 of whom were on the all-conference team last season. With that in mind, what are your expectations for the year?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, we lost a lot of talent last year. Some of those guys, Josh Dew, Shane Arnold, guys like that are going to be really, really tough to replace. But, yeah, I mean, I'm confident in the guys that we have this year. We're pretty young. I mean, a lot younger than we were last year. But we have a lot of young guys that really did see a lot of time last year, and I think are ready to see more significant time and are excited about those challenges. Once again, though, I think that we're just excited about the chance to compete against some of the best teams in the country. And my job is pretty simple, but it's also difficult. I mean, I want to make the experience for my 50 guys, that's something that's unmatched at this university, and something that's, competing at a national level, in this league. And we're excited about that. I just want my guys to, to grow, mature, and have a great experience. If we can win some games along the way, that makes all the experience all the more fun. But expectations are to have a great experience and hopefully win some games along the way. But we know that anyone on our schedule this year, if we don't come to play and bring it every single day, that we're going to get beat. The teams on our schedule are just that good. So we'll see what happens, and I'm excited about those challenges.
Now, we're very sorry to hear about the passing of one of your players, Alex Habel. We heard you're planning on dedicating your season to him. What will you be doing to commemorate his memory?
Yeah, Alex is a great guy. A rising junior, somebody who we were excited about. Had really progressed his freshman and sophomore year into the player that we wanted him to be. Just a tragic event, something that we couldn't foresee happening, and a really difficult struggle for our team. We're doing a couple things, and I've been in contact with his mom, throughout the entire summer, and letting her know what we're doing. All of our equipment this year, all of our gear, our undershirts, our reversals and everything, all have the number 8 on the back, and then the guy's actual number will be on their sleeve. So he's constantly in the back of our mind. We're also having a Memorial weekend for him during the Florida State weekend. We play Florida State on Saturday and then Kentucky on Sunday, where his mom is going to be coming down and, kind of holding just a memorial for him. I think some of the parents are going to try to get together with his mom beforehand. We've also made a video for him with his fraternity. His fraternity brothers have been really great in helping us think of ideas and just remembering what he did for us as a Virginia Tech community. But a kid like that you can't replace. I mean, he was a coach's dream. I mean, he was always out there, first guy out there, trying to get better every day, and he did that. Just a tough event for us, and we're looking forward to celebrating what he did for us with his family and his fraternity. We're also, at the end of the year, we're going to create an award in his name, the Alex Habel Memorial, that his mom has agreed to come down and present at our annual awards banquet. So we're excited that she is going to be with us through a lot of these things, because still a lot of the guys are still struggle with him not being here with us. We're going to try to keep him on the roster as well. Luckily, Kyle has been great with that, along with Doug and Dan on the executive board, allowing us to keep him on the roster for the next 2 years, as he would still be a student at Virginia Tech. And obviously no one is going to wear his number, at least while I'm still here. No one will ever wear that number while he's here, while I'm here. So we hope that he's watching over us and will help us get through this year, because we know there's going to be some up and downs, and we know that Alex is going to be watching over us.
Yeah, definitely a tough thing to go through for a team. And you were kind of mentioning that this is a team that's been always going through adversity here lately, and they seem to somehow come out stronger with it at Virginia Tech. Yeah,
it's really true. And I spoke to Coach Schroeder earlier in the week. This is a guy who played Division III lacrosse at Muhlenberg College, very small Division III school, maybe 2,700 total students, at least undergrad. He says that the thing that's so great about Virginia Tech is probably 10 times the size plus of Muhlenberg, but he feels as though the community is so close and tight-knit. That's kind of what Hokie Nation brings to the table. And yeah, in 2007, Michael Stephen Poley was unfortunately a victim of the terrible shooting that took place in Blacksburg. It was an interesting thing to be a part of as a student athlete in 2007. I remember my Emory team making the tournament that year, and the SELC administration, Buff Grubb and Doug Horn, being very quick to respond to have us all put black ribbon memorial stickers with the VT logo on our helmets. That sticker stays on my helmet to this day. That was the first piece of adversity. Then Joel Knocklis took a step aside for Matt Schroeder, his longtime assistant, to step in, more so than other MCLA teams who made changes like that. Virginia Tech really did that with class. And then unfortunately for Alex Habel to pass away this summer, it seems as though every few summers I get a call from an MCLA coach, no foul play, nothing illegal involved, being college kids having a little bit of fun, and sometimes accidents happen, and it's a consequence for their community, their families, and their teammates in this case as well.
Let's take a look here now. Number 2 in the SELC, the Liberty Flames. Seems like this team exponentially gets better every offseason.
Yeah, they absolutely do. One thing that they always have that's always a potent power for them is their offense. Their attack is always one of the tops in the SELC and also one of the tops in the nation. You saw on the graphic, they had over 400 goals for them last season, and I think a key thing that was huge for them in attack was you got 2 all-conference honorees, and Bryce Morakovic and also Ryan Miller, the Conference Player of the Year and also Tournament MVP. They're huge. We also talked about Ethan Kamhortz. He's going to be on the short list, in my opinion, for Defensive Player of the Year, along with Brian Cooper. They're both 2 studs in net, and when you got 2 guys like them, I heard Kyle McQuillan and also their new coaching staff, Mike Zampano, he said it's like having another coach out there. So definitely really huge to have him back there in net.
Yeah, he's a field sergeant, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's an incredible leader. Not only can he stop goals, but he can score them as well.
Right. Yeah,
Ask North Dakota State about this 2012 Division II tournament. He's an unbelievable athlete. He's very diverse, he's large framed. He can get out of the goal. He's very fast. He's an absolute commander for the defense. I mean, when you talk about what Liberty has lost from last season, the only guy who's graduated that Liberty's truly lost is Derek Haywood. Zampano is back as defensive coordinator, stepping in for Mark McQuillan as defensive coordinator, who I imagine will be back at some point in the future. And Kurt Tobias is also back on the coaching staff, coaching up the attack. But so much power returning. Ryan Miller is obviously fantastic. Chad Moore, I think, is overlooked a lot. Versatile D1 transfer from Mercer. Offensive-oriented midfielder for sure, but he has the ability to face off. He can play defense well. I think that he's an exciting player to watch. Chris Armstrong and Bryce Morakovic. Bryce Morakovic, as you mentioned before, also incredible offensive players to step in front of Ethan Kamhortz and really make Liberty a very solid competitor.
Yeah, you also have to remember, I think Chris Armstrong, he's probably one of the most underrated players in all the SELC. He had 61 points for this team, and when you had 2 studs on the attack and Ryan Miller and Kurt Tobias, you kind of get overlooked. So definitely he's going to be huge. Also, another NCAA transfer, Brent Bernardo, he's going to take the reins as one of the head captains this year. You're going to look for big things for him, too.
Let's hear from Kyle McQuillan. We'll send it over to Brandon Coburn as he's got it. Kyle over there with him.
Thanks, guys. I'm joined now by Coach Kyle McQuillan. And Kyle, you lost a lot of veteran leadership last year, but you also managed to bring back a good core group of guys. How do you feel like the new guys are going to perform this year?
We have a lot of faith and trust in these guys. Every program, you've got to deal with the loss. Every year, you got to graduate guys. So we definitely lost some key guys, and we've been able to retain a handful of them on the coaching staff and kind of keep them close. But we have a lot of faith in these guys. They've stepped up in a lot of big ways throughout the fall. They've really shown some leadership qualities and grown into that role. And what it's going to come down to is this season and how they prepare the guys both on and off the field. And we're optimistic. And we don't think we're going to miss too many steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Virginia Tech and Liberty, 1 and 2 in the preseason rankings. With their top defense, your top offense, how do you think your team matches up against them?
It's difficult to say. It'll come down to that last game of the season. They were our last game of the season last year. Same thing. We're going to go and visit Blacksburg this year, and hopefully it'll be just as good a game as it was for us last year. But yeah, they're a pretty defensively sound team. We've typically been pretty stout on the offensive side of the field. We expect big things from our offense, and we have for a long time. I think the thing that's going to make us a little bit different this year is the expectations from our defense. We have brought in a lot of really good athletes. We've got a lot of guys returning from last season, and our expectations for our defense have probably doubled from what they were for last season. So we're hoping to be a defensive team or known as a defensive team within the SELC and match Virginia Tech in that department.
Now, it seems like every year the success of this program just keeps building. Do you think that is a trend that can continue?
I hope so. I don't know if it's something that will be able to continue at some point. I guess it's got to level out, but I tell people all the time, and I mean it, I think this team and this program gets twice as good every season, and I feel the same way this year. This university, the position it's put us in, the resources and the support that they provided to us, there's no reason why we shouldn't continue to grow, get better, and continue to add the quality of players, both from a lacrosse perspective and character perspective to this team.
Yeah. Now, we all know that the SELC is the biggest conference for Division I. With that being said, there is only one auto bid. How do you think that this conference compares to the rest of the league?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think there's a lot of great things about the SELC being as big as it is, and there's a couple drawbacks. One of them is that we've got 20-plus teams, and only one of us are guaranteed a spot at the national tournament. I think it's up to us as a conference to prove that we deserve more than one, and I think this season we definitely have that opportunity. I think, I mean, programs like Virginia Tech and what they were able to do last year at the national level, Florida Florida State's another program that went undefeated until a loss in Atlanta at the playoffs. But I mean, down the list, I can see a number of teams being able to make a dent nationally. We hope that we're one of those programs. Our expectations is to be in California this May and be able to not just do some damage. It's not just a vacation for our guys, but to go win some games and be a threat nationally.
Kyle, thank you very much for taking some time to answer our questions, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thanks.
Rep, back to you guys.
Always good to hear from Kyle McQuillan. Best shoes in the league by far. Any coach out
Got
here.
great sneaker game.
Yeah,
great sneaker
definitely.
game. We were talking about it this morning. Unbelievable.
Along with that, you know, I'm wondering where on earth is all the Liberty B-roll? All you teams out there, you don't want to see our ugly mugs for the whole show next year. Make sure you send in some footage of yourselves so we can kind of pretty it up a little bit. Well, let's take a look here at the rest of the Northeast region. George Washington, a team that's excited about having some new leadership.
Yeah, J.D. Engelhardt again steps in as his first year as head coach, taking over for Joe Oppren, who helped elevate GW into the MCLA. Oppren moved to Chicago with his wife and still stays in an operational role. Engelhardt has a great lacrosse pedigree. He played at a great Division III power, Washington and Lee University. How funny is it that GW has a head coach from Washington and Lee University? It's like insert Civil War joke here. But when you talk about GW's leadership, there are a lot of great things that they bring to the table on the field. Charlie Frattini is an attackman, one of the leading producers as far as goals per game, put in 46 in the back of the net last year. He's a senior captain as well as his goalie, Kyle Webb. Both of these guys will be graduating this year and then taking the next steps in their military careers. It's pretty awesome to think about. I mean, you think about Army, Navy, and VMI in Division I lacrosse. You'd think about Citadel, Texas A&M, and Virginia Tech circumstantially here at the MCLA level. George Washington, for the most part, is an elite liberal arts university. So for two of their leaders on the lacrosse field to elect to go into the military, absolutely fantastic. Kyle Webb, a Navy ROTC guy who will join the Navy next year. Charles Frattini comes from a military background with his family, and he will apply for positions within the Department of Defense as a civilian.
I'm just going to start calling you the lacrosse Wikipedia here. Pat, let's take a look at Tennessee. They have some tough losses on the defensive aspect of things.
Yeah, they do, but I think one thing that you got to look at, they're returning some key guys. You look at second-year all-conference, Griffin Young, he's going to be huge for them. Also, they have midfielder Nick Geshick and also senior attackman Paul Dingy. These guys are really going to command the offense for this team and definitely hope to turn it around because they're looking to try to get into that top two part of the region because the top two teams in each region, they get the bid into the SEL playoffs. And then as we saw last year, anything can happen. You saw two region teams that won their own region. They lost in the first round, get upset, and then also another region team in Florida State, they lost to a competitive region team and also Liberty. So anything can happen once you make playoffs. So they're just trying to make it in. But I think one team you got to look out for, it's got to be West Virginia. That's going to be another one of the teams that looks like in the coaching carousel throughout all the SELC. They're definitely going to have a new coach, Jason Federer. He's got a lot of rebuilding to do, but definitely you're hoping he's going to change that culture. I know they're sitting at 4th right now, but you're going to see good things coming from West Virginia.
Yeah, how long does it take for a guy to come into a lacrosse program out in the Mountaineer State and kind of rebuild it back into respectability and, you know, in competition?
It's interesting with West Virginia because they only joined the SELC recently. When they first came into the MCLA, they were actually competing in the CCLA, the Central Collegiate Lacrosse Association. So I feel like West Virginia is trying to find some stability and really try to find their identity. It's not easy when you have your 4th head coach in 4 years in Jason Federer. They have a decent out-of-conference slate. Pitt is a very strong team out of their old conference, the CCLA. URI, a strong team out of the Pioneer League. Miami of Ohio, not exactly the strongest of competitors in the GRLC, but a good team regardless. They return their top 3 scorers in Mountain Town, Brian Cooper, Dalton Clark, and Clayton Johnson. That should help.
When we go to Kentucky, a team that seems like they're forever in change, these poor guys, 4 coaches in 4 years. How difficult is it for the players just to kind of find a balance and compete on a nightly basis?
It's hard because you get pretty much a different playbook every season. So, I mean, as you said, this is their new coach in Dyke Holbrook. I think a good thing that's going to be huge for him, he has a son that's going to be their returning scorer. He has 36 points in Hayden Haybrook, and also 38 ground balls. So you see that he's a versatile playmaker, not only on the offensive end, but defensive end. You also are returning in 3 guys that could probably compete for the goaltending position, and also in Kyle Johnson, Drew Etling, and then Ryan Schmitter, who in 2 of them, Johnson and Schmitter, saw 8 games of action. So those guys are definitely going to be huge for this team on the defensive end, and also just it's going to be hard for him to try to get things established in the first year, but you're looking for Kentucky at least to get more than 1 win.
Well, that's our take at the Northeast region. Looks to see like Virginia Tech. A lot of people favoring them. We'll have to see if the Flames can compete in there as well. I'm sure it's going to be a dandy of a game. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Northeast. Stay with us. More to come.
Are you looking for a unique homeschooling option for your children? With Liberty University Online Academy, you aren't just homeschooling, you're transforming your home into a private Christian school for students grades K through 12. Your kids will receive individualized attention and enjoy hands-on learning in a flexible environment. With curriculum written by Liberty University professors and the option to enroll part-time or full-time, what are you waiting for? For more info, visit libertyonlineacademy.com.
Liberty University offers a wide variety of camps for students of all ages. From taking the field at football camp to making a musical debut in the theater, there is something for everyone. Students can have personal instruction from NCAA Division I coaches and student athletes, while playing in top-notch facilities. Liberty University Summer Camps is one of the only places in the country where you can participate in winter sports during the summer. Learn to ski and snowboard at Snowflex or improve your ice hockey and figure skating skills in our LaHaye Ice Center with our hockey and figure skating coaches and teams. Students will have a great time making new friends and memories while exploring Liberty's campus and growing in their relationship with Christ. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today for the 2015 summer camps at Liberty University.
Welcome back. Let's take a look now at the Northeast region here in the SELC. And South Carolina, a team that has potential to be a dark horse that is here. You know, kind of, they're down there in the rankings a little bit in the whole entire SELC, but a team that could kind of jump up and bite you.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. When you think about their performance last year, they were a team that really snuck up in their region, got to the SELC tournament. It was interesting because their head coach was on sabbatical. Now Adam Rath, not only a tenured head coach in Columbia, South Carolina, but a former South Carolina player, comes in with a lot of returning talent and stability. And as you said, for sure, a dark horse that could really challenge the Georgia Techs, the Virginia Techs, the Liberties, and the Florida States, and perhaps sneak into the national tournament.
What is one thing they do extremely well?
Well, definitely it's got to be their attack. They got 8 guys with over 10-plus points. Then 2 guys that are definitely going to headline that attack is going to be their attackman and Russell, and then also Will Scott with 45 and 38 points respectively. So that's going to be huge. And then also, whenever a team can come together, or when your coach is on sabbatical, that's got to be good. They did excellent things, going 8-4, perfect 4-0 in their region. So that's huge for them. So the attack is definitely going to be their bread and butter.
The biggest question for me with South Carolina is who's going to start in goal. They have a junior in John Clark who started for 2 years, has 300-plus career saves, 55% career save percentage, but they just landed an unbelievable transfer from Division III Stevenson, a 2-time starter for Paul Cantabene's Mustangs at Stevenson, an honorable mention NCAA All-American. Dimitri Pekunis now comes into South Carolina to compete for the starting goaltender position. It should be really interesting to see who's manning the pipes for the Gamecocks.
When you take a look at this group, what are they going to need to do throughout the season? Is there a game they're going to need to win? What's going to need to happen for them to kind of jump up and take that SELC bid into a national tournament? Or is it going to happen? Can it happen for them?
I think the biggest thing for them right now, they just got to worry about their region first off. You got to take care of business at home because you are going to be doing a lot of traveling this year. They're going to be playing in 4 different states. And actually, Monica is going to touch on that in just a minute. But that's going to be huge for them because they got to worry about winning on the road. And then also, once you get that road warrior syndrome done, then get things done at home and take care of your own region. You get that perfect 4-0 record again, make it to the playoffs, then try not to just take it one game at a time because we saw last year they got upset in the first round by a losing Florida team. That was the only team with a losing record in the whole tournament.
Pat was just saying their offense is phenomenal. You take a look at their defensive game. Is that the weakness for this club?
You would think so. Again, they've relied on good goaltending.
Right.
The fact of the matter is we don't know who's going to be in goal this year. They should only be stronger in between the pipes. You would hope that they've really found some stability at, with special teams, with long stick midfielders as well as their close defense. Again, they know how to score. Can they stop them? Can they perform well within their region? Them and South Carolina and Clemson are perennially the 2 top teams in the region, but North Carolina State's right there.
Are there other goaltenders good enough athletes to perhaps go out on defense? Has that ever been done?
It's absolutely been done.
Okay.
It's absolutely been done. You see how athletic some goaltenders are. Some of them are bigger, stay-at-home sorts of guys, but when you have an athlete like Ethan Kamholtz, I don't know how these guys at South Carolina compare, but if you have one guy who's really great in the goal and you have a versatile athlete who could perhaps perform elsewhere, either as a short stick D-midi or an LSM, utilize it.
Yeah, definitely. While our own Monica McKenzie was able to catch up with the head coach of the Gamecocks, Adam Rath.
Thanks, guys. I'm joined by Adam Rath of South Carolina. Now, some would call you guys the dark horse of your conference. So what are your thoughts on your chances of winning the title this season?
Yeah, I kind of feel like every year we kind of have that dark horse kind of role, playing the underdog. A lot of teams, I feel, kind of overlook us sometimes going into a game, and late in the fourth quarter we're in a grudge match that they probably didn't think that they were going to be in. Every year I've been a part of South Carolina Lacrosse now for 10 years as a player and coach, and it seems like every year we seem to be getting better and better in terms of the talent level that is being coming down south from up north, and with that combination of players and the coaches that we have this year, I mean it's kind of the sky's the limit for these guys. They can go as far as they want to go. They've set team goals, and definitely late in playoffs and beyond is on their plate. So I mean, with the group of guys we have, I think our chances are really good this year. I've got all the confidence in the world in them.
And you guys were on a 5-game winning streak heading into the SELC tournament last season, but were upset in the first round. How has that fueled you coming into this upcoming season?
Yeah, last year I kind of took a sabbatical from the team, and 3 guys that I actually coached took over, and so they did a phenomenal job first and foremost before I kind of go in and answer the question. To beat the teams that they beat last year is great. And I mean, to be on that 5-game winning streak late in the season the way that they were, that's the best time to get hot as far as I'm concerned, just towards the end of the season and into our conference play and leading into playoffs. So, in terms of the loss that they suffered in the first round of the playoff, we've seen it too many times with South Carolina Lacrosse, where we make it to SELCs, and before we know it, we're packing and heading back home the same day we travel there. And that's not what these guys want to do this year. Like I previously said, we've got so much talent that they know that they don't want to just keep themselves grounded a little bit. They're not coming in saying we're gonna win everything, we're gonna go all the way. I think they've set small goals, which I think is smart, and having a first round victory in the SELCs is a goal that they have. And just more focused in practice, with those losses just lingering like that, their work ethic has been just so great ending the fall and going into the spring that I think they're just more focused on their team goals and, just working hard as a team and a unit to try and be successful this year.
Now, you guys will be doing a lot of travel this season, traveling to 5 different states. What is it about the group of guys you have that gives you confidence that they will be able to handle that amount of traveling? Yeah,
I know you guys kind of tripped me up. I thought we were only going to 4 states, which I'm pretty sure we are. So we're going to Tennessee to play Purdue and Vandy. We go to Louisiana to play in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl. We'll be going to North Carolina to play Wake and NC State, and then obviously going to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech. So I was wondering where that 5th one was. I think we're just going to 4, but the team travel is always difficult on any team, whether you're carpooling guys, whether you're taking the charter buses or whether teams are flying, which they're doing now a lot of. And travel is something that as coaches, we can only do so much to try and prepare them, for a 7-hour bus ride to Nashville, or even longer going to, New Orleans this year. So, it's up to them and how they prepare for it. I think that sometimes getting off a bus and going to play a game, 2 hours after you get there can be tough on the guys, but at the same rate, it's sort of the calm before the storm. Driving up to a game, it's relaxed. Guys are, maybe studying on the bus or, going over plays, and as coaches, we're going over the depth chart and the personnel, and it's kind of a nice team, almost a team bonding moment for guys to just sort of stay relaxed, and sometimes we get off the bus and they're ready to go. So it's sometimes it can be difficult, getting off buses and playing, but I think this group, like I said in answer to your last question, they're really focused this year. So, I think we'll be just fine on the road.
I'd like to thank South Carolina for sending in some footage of their program. Guys, let's take a look at the rest of the Northeast region. Clemson, a team that's very strong in the attack.
No question about it. They're returning Ian Seal as well as J.P. Brennan and Matt Johnson on the attack. Ian Seal put up 34 points last year. The biggest thing with Clemson is that they bring in a first-year head coach in Joe Connor. He was actually the head coach in Miami in 2013, but they went over. So you would hope that there's going to be a better result for Clemson this year, as well as a better result for Miami. But the longtime head coach at Clemson, Buff Grubb, probably the only head coach in the MCLA to be at 3 schools. He was the head coach at Tennessee, Wake Forest, and then moved on to Clemson. A longtime SELC administrator, seeing his way out for Joe Connor. But yeah, their attack is very, very strong, and they have some huge gaps to fill on defense. An All-American candidate goalie Demetrius Murray is gone, as well as defensive captain Harrison Luttrell, and 3 of their top middies are gone.
Yeah. When you take a look at a team that brings in new coaches, it seems like a lot of that's happened so far in the SELC this year. How much of an impact can a new coach make?
Well, I think it depends on how the coach itself. If he's able to change the culture of this team, then that's going to be the huge thing. Because we saw, and we're going to see probably later with some of these other teams. Some of these teams went offers and definitely only got a couple wins on the year. So they're just trying to get a couple more wins or try to get above 500. You saw with Clemson, their team that just finished below 500, finished 500 in their region, but not overall. So that's just something they want to try to do. And also, you got to figure out your identity too. Like, are we an offensive team, defensive team? We transition well. What is it? And also, who are those key cogs going to be? Because I think the biggest lapse for them is going to be on the defensive end.
Let's take a look here at ECU, a team that once again has changed their entire coaching staff, and they're really looking forward to that game against NC State this year.
They are. They're excited about their coaching staff. They feel as though that Chris Renshaw is coming in is going to bring a lot of stability compared to what they've had ultimately in the past. They were 4-8 and 1-3 last year. They haven't had a winning season since 2007, so they're really looking to rectify that. They return some decent talent on attack. Jack Daly. They return their goalie Chris Lane, but they're going to have to fill the shoes of Pat O'Brien on the offensive end as well.
Nifong gone for the Wolfpack. How are they going to, adhere to that? How are they going to develop other guys that can score? Because he was their leading scorer. He was the guy offensively for them.
I think the biggest thing, you're going to have to look at Jeff Williams. He's going to have to command this offense for the team. He was the 3rd leading scorer on the team last year, and I know Dave just touched on it. They're losing a lot of guys in the attack, losing 5 of your top 6 scorers, so that's going to be huge. So you got to just find your identity, potentially probably be more a defensive first team.
Is Wake Forest still going to be bad this year?
Yeah, I mean, Wake Forest went over last year, 0-10, 0-4. They have stability at the head coaching position. This is Andrew Allison's 4th year at the helm. I mean, you take a look at some of their losses last year. A 14-goal loss to UGA, a 20-goal loss to Liberty, 14-goal loss to Virginia Tech. They lost by 12 to East Carolina and 16 to South Carolina. Their closest game was 9-8 loss against Vandy. They returned 3 of their top 5 scorers, as well as Jim Walton in goal, and again, a captain in Sean Krim. So you hope that they're going to improve.
Well, hopefully they can definitely get better, and, improvement is always nice. The team to watch is South Carolina. Clemson, hoping their attack can kind of get them in that same range. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Southeast region.
Hi, I'm Kirk Cameron. As a father of 6 children, I recognize the importance of selecting a university that is not only going to prepare my kids for their career, but inspire and empower them to incorporate their faith into all aspects of their life. At Liberty, I believe that parents can rest, assured their kids are going to be surrounded by good, positive influences, allowing them to make the most of their college experience while they train to change their world.
My name is Laura Holmes. I graduated from Liberty University with my bachelor's in psychology. Coming to the program and doing this online as a person who's worked out in the world for over 20 years and didn't have the Christian education and now has that the impact that Liberty has had on me has been overwhelming. To have that scriptural basis put into everything that I've learned. My only regret is I didn't have it 20-some years ago.
The Southeast region we'll take a look at now. Every team likes to go there on spring break. Everybody. Why not? Liberty should go there, so I'll go with the team. But anyways, we take a look here at Florida State. All the confidence in the world, this team, this coaching staff knows they're good. They know they can recruit. They're bringing in coaches at the NCAA Division I level just to look at their goaltenders. Like, what can this team not do in some ways?
It's funny, I spoke to Matt Doyle, a second-year head coach at Florida State earlier this week. He, of course, took over for Bill Harkins last year. It's a pretty crazy story. Around this time last year, maybe a few weeks earlier, Matt Doyle was just laid off from his Wall Street job at Barclays Capital. A former national champion and All-American at Syracuse University decides he's done with New York. He actually had a divorce, and he wanted to relocate and go into college coaching. He was fortunate to get the job at Florida State and has hit the ground running in every single way. Had a great year last year, was undefeated until they met Liberty in the conference championship. He brought in one of his buddies who he played with at Syracuse to coach the defense and the goalies. And Coach Doyle has said straight up, he's not afraid of anybody. He expects to go undefeated. He expects to win a national championship. He's not afraid of anybody in the conference, whether it's Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Liberty, or South Carolina. He's not afraid of Colorado or Colorado State. He expects to win that game, and he expects to be the only person who's not surprised.
You get a divorce, move on, things just get
better,
I guess.
Some say he's living the dream. Who knows?
I don't know.
But you got to look at Florida State. Definitely a lot of confidence. I mean, I remember hearing about the interview you said you had with him. This coach, he definitely seems very confident. I mean, he said if we don't go undefeated and win the SELC championship and the national championship, it's a failed season, so it doesn't matter what happens in between there. They got a lot of talent on attack, as you just touched on. One of the key guys, Will Goodman and Cole Lindquist, they're going to be the key guys coming back and definitely getting things done. Both have 50-plus points. And so you also look on the defensive end, Will Glover and also Sam Rock, they're going to be huge for them. Kevin Hoppy and Quint Bodine, they're also going to be huge too.
You said this is a team that improved greatly through the offseason. Are they at the same level as Liberty and Virginia Tech?
I would say so. They expect to be in every single way. Again, they return a lot of youth and power at attack. They brought in a new defensive coordinator to help out with the goalies and the close defensemen. I spoke to him about how he's conducting his practices recently. He says, you take the F off of FSU, it's like we're right back at Syracuse. We're aggressive, we're hungry, we want to rectify the loss against Liberty last year. We watched that game on tape from the SELC tournament. We've compared it to the win that we had with them earlier in the year. We're ready to rectify things, and we're excited to win out the SELC and turn some heads in Colorado as well.
Now, I heard a rumor, is it FSU that you don't get along with, or Florida?
No, it's Florida.
Okay, we won't get that. All right. Any weaknesses on this team overall? Like, what is going to be their Achilles heel for other teams to exploit?
Their cockiness. Overconfident.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're an overconfident bunch, and I think they're probably looking at, hey, Liberty's the team that defeated us last year and going to be a team that they circle on the calendar. I know Liberty's excited when they come down here, and I'm actually excited to see them in action. That's going to be a very tight match you see between the two teams, but you come in there thinking you're going to win, you're going to walk over these teams, you're going to be surprised. Someone's going to upset you, so you definitely might want to take it down a notch.
Is it going to be one of the premier games this year, Liberty versus Florida State?
I think so. Again, the thing that's most impressive about Florida State's schedule is that they're not only going out to Colorado to play Colorado and Colorado State, they're playing all the teams in their region like they have to, and then they're also playing Virginia Tech, Liberty, and Georgia Tech. Again, Matt Doyle's not afraid of anyone.
All right, the Gators, Florida, chomp, chomp, Pat. They return a lot of impact players this year.
Well, definitely. They're one of the few teams in all the SELC that actually made the playoffs with a losing record, so that's going to be huge, beating regional champion in South Carolina. So definitely going to look to build momentum off of that. Lost in the semis to Virginia Tech, so they're definitely going to try to get things. Ryan Renner's has done an excellent job, and as you said, some impact players for them. Matt Dillon, Henry Champagne, and also midfielder James Holt and Jackson Heinz. Both got, all those guys had over 10-plus points, so not a huge scoring offensive team, but definitely getting it done when it's needed.
Dave, let's keep it positive. What are some things you like about Florida?
There are a lot of things I like about Florida. I've had an interesting relationship with Ryan Winters during my journalism career. He's actually one of the few coaches in the MCLA or the SELC that was a coach when I was a player and continues to coach. Whenever he was a coach, he was also aggressive to a certain degree, similar to Florida State about the way he's scheduled. He's dialed it back a little bit as far as his out-of-conference slate. You take a look at some of the teams they've played in the past. Stanford, Sonoma, Cal, ASU, Arizona, Washington, Simon Fraser, Oregon. Now their out-of-conference slate looks more like Louisiana, Lafayette, and LSU. So, again, with the talent that they're returning, they also have Aaron Silcott, an unbelievable face-off man. It's hard to lose games when you're winning face-offs and you control the ball a lot. I think that they have some stability, some more senior leadership, and perhaps dialing back their schedule a bit will give them more energy throughout the season. And again, they're really competing right there with UCF for the second spot in the Southeast region, where they have a chance to go to the SELC tournament and then hopefully get a national bid.
Yeah, we talk about Central Florida. How good of an opportunity do they have, and what's the chance and the likelihood that they're going to be able to compete with Florida and get that number 2 spot?
Well, I think they're going to have an excellent chance. I mean, obviously with Central Florida, they're not one of the premier teams in all of the state of Florida, but definitely a team that is looking to make themselves known as one of the premier teams. I mean, they're going to go into all these games. I mean, this region is the state of Florida, so they're going to go on all these games, practically a rivalry game. So they're definitely looking to show with a chip on their shoulder, saying, hey, we belong here and we can compete, especially in beating Florida and also FSU.
Take a look here at Miami. Quality coaching staff with this group. Is that going to make the difference for them?
I would think so. Again, similar to East Carolina, they're very enthused by their new coaching staff. Dale Wood was a longtime high school head coach in the state of Florida, and Miami's happy to bring him in. They're returning a lot of talent. Matt Gozzi at the midfield, as well as Jake Warner at attack. 2 solid senior leaders in Dan Pizer and Frankie Carey. So again, Joe Connor was their head coach in 2013, and they lost every single game. So hopefully Dale Wood will be more successful than Joe was.
South Florida, a team that's lost 9 seniors. How difficult is it going to be for them to compete this year? Is this kind of a regroup, retooling year for this club?
I think it's going to be hard for them to try to get things going. Whenever you lose that much leadership, you got to kind of try to refine your identity. So they're definitely going to be looking to do that. And also, they're one of the lower-ranked teams in all of the SELC, sitting there in 19th in the preseason polls. So they're going to try to get things going and try to revamp this team.
And Dave, you said they got a young stud possibly coming in?
Possibly. It's almost like on Rumor Report. They lost 9 seniors last year. Jojo Marasco, who is an unbelievable player at Syracuse, a Tewaaraton Trophy finalist. It is rumored that his younger brother, also from Yorktown High School, will be suiting up for the Bulls this year. We don't know how good he is. We're not really sure what position he'll be playing. We're not even sure if he's playing at all. But if he is, it should be interesting.
Well, it looks like Florida State will be the team. Confidence. Is it going to be a good thing, or is it going to be your Achilles heel? We'll have to wait and see. A big matchup, them and the Flames here in Lynchburg. We can't wait to see it. Southwest coming up next. Stay with us.
Now on your radio, The Journey. Life.
I am not alone. I am among friends who love me unconditionally.
Hope.
I know God has a plan, even though I don't always see it. This is my journey.
Music from Chris Tomlin, Mandisa, 10th Avenue North, Need to Breathe, Mercy Me, Rend Collective, Toby Mac, and more. All new. The Journey, 88.3, and at myjourneyfm.com.
Opportunity.
Truly does train champions for Christ.
Community and the fellowship.
We're determined that Liberty is the one school that achieves all those things academically and athletically, but still remains true to our Christian mission.
We are Liberty University, training champions for Christ.
Liberty's a strong physical team. They're going to be difficult to defend.
Cross court to Frazier. 3-point shot. Good! Inside to Reiniger. Off the glass and scores. Gardner with the ball. She goes up. Shot goes in.
Liberty, so dominant all night long.
Liberty basketball season tickets are on sale now at libertyflames.com. At Liberty University, we take our mission of training champions for Christ seriously, and our academics are leading the way. Study nursing, cinematic arts, engineering, business, and more. Or take learning to the postgraduate level with a degree from any of our schools or programs, including law or medicine. Whatever the challenge you choose, God can use Liberty to train you to be an expert in your field.
Welcome back. Hopefully for the Southwest, they will be best. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. But anyways, take a look here at Georgia Tech and, the president of the SELC running this group. Is that an advantage for them?
It's interesting. Yeah, Ken Lovick, the president of the MCLA, it will be the first time.
No, you got me.
It's all okay. President of the MCLA. He has a very talented team, very defensive oriented. It's been a while since an MCLA president has actually coached in the MCLA tournament. In 2007, John Paul from the University of Michigan was president. He took his team to Dallas, Texas. They actually lost in the first round to Northeastern. In 2008, Tony Scazzaro took over as MCLA president. His team made the tournament that year. It's been a while since we've seen an MCLA president coaching in the MCLA tournament.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ken. I didn't mean to demote you that way. Pat, when we take a look at this team, what kind of stands out to you?
Well, definitely it's got to be they got the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and Matt Summerfield. As I said, there's a short list for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's the third guy I put on there. And they're all goalies. Cooper from Virginia Tech, Cam Holtz from Liberty, and then this kid right now, the reigning MVP. He's definitely going to be commanding the back nine for this team. Really bit of a captain out there, and another coach in this team. So definitely have a lot of confidence when it comes to him in net.
Is a good goaltender enough to win you a region?
I think it's evident. I mean, he won them the region last year. They were the
SELC is a defensive conference. The SELC is a defensive conference. It seems like most of these teams do have a defensive identity. There are a lot of good goalies, as we've seen at Liberty and Virginia Tech, and Matt Sommerfeld is right up there. I mean, you can only rely on a goalie so much, to be honest. Again, Ethan Kamholtz has done some miraculous things in the way that he's able to get out of the net and spark offense. I think that a lot of these other goalies are more traditional, and I really think that if Georgia Tech's going to have to find success this year, Connolly and O'Brien at the attack really have to help out David Cyron and Matt Sommerfeld on the defensive end and really put up some points against their common opponents.
What does this team do extremely well?
They play
defense, but they got big guys back there, or what is it about them that's so well defensively?
Size and physicality. Size and physicality. It's, defense is Ken Lovick's bread and butter in every single way. He always prides himself on his defense. They always schedule well. They have depth in that position, and like a lot of other SELC teams, they try to wear teams down offensively and just try to score more goals at the end of the fourth.
I think also something that they have is good coaching. Ken Lovick. This guy is he is a real student of the game. He knows a lot about the lacrosse, obviously, because he's been elected to be the president of this entire league. So definitely a strong coaching staff, too, to go with him. And as you said right there, defense wins you championships, and he's definitely teaching these guys the right way.
A goalie might not be able to win you a region, but defense does win championships.
That's true. Do they have the offense, though, to go with the defense? Is this a team that's going to, beat teams like 14-10, or is it going to be, can they put up a 17 spot on the board?
We'll see.
I think it's going to be, you're not going to see teams getting lit up by this team, but you will see them probably get into the double digits in a lot of matches. I mean, they got one of their returning attackers. Here's in Holland Frost and also in Brian Connolly. Those are going to be two guys that are definitely headlining the attack for this team, and Ken Lovick said he's really excited about to see them to progress in offense.
Georgia Tech plays a lot of close games. That's really, that's really part of their identity. They don't blow teams out. They don't get blown out. That's where they are.
Does that benefit them when they go into the SELC tournament? Just being able to face adversity and kind of fight through it?
I think so, because when the SELC tournament comes around, that's when you have to be playing your best lacrosse. And again, when defense wins championships, your first chance at a championship at this level is within your conference. So I think that does bode well for Georgia Tech's future, especially as we approach the regional playoffs later in the season.
Well, let's hear from Ken Lovick. Monica McKenzie had an opportunity to catch up with him earlier in the week.
Thank you. I'm joined by Ken Lovick of Georgia Tech. Now, you're in what seems to be the SEC of the SELC. What are your thoughts on your division and the high level of competition that it has?
It's always very optimistic for us. I mean, it's kind of neat to play the SEC schools and be the lone ACC rep in that area, but through the years, it's really a toss-up each year. Vanderbilt's been strong some years. Auburn had a nice run a couple years ago. Georgia obviously is a big in-state rivalry for us. That's always a big game. It seems to be the two of us seem to win that division. Well, the two of us each year. Alabama and Ole Miss, you just never know what to expect. This year should be interesting, especially with a lot of coaching changes in our region. There'll be a lot of things that are sort of unknown for us, especially going to play Alabama and Ole Miss in about 10 days with two new coaching staffs there. It'll be a challenge for us, and it's always the Southwest division that we're in is always a very competitive battle each year.
Now, your team had a very strong finish last season, which included a 6-game winning streak right at the end, but you failed to get that final SELC title. What do you feel your team is going to be able to do this season to make that final push?
I hope a little chip on their shoulder more than anything. We certainly gave the eventual champions a good game. We sort of early on dominated possession, but just couldn't get in the back of the cage. Virginia Tech is a very strong program. Obviously, we've had a good, rich history playing against them. But we were close. It was a 2-goal game, and we're hoping that experience more than anything will get us over the edge. We graduated a few kids last year. We only have one senior on the team this year, so maybe a little bit of experience from those young guys last year will help us a little bit more this year as we get ready for postseason play.
You're a very busy man as the head coach of Georgia Tech, as well as the director of the entire MCLA. How do you manage those two roles so effectively?
I think more lucky than anything else. I think I've got a lot of really good people that are involved with us. So the number of committees that we have, director of certain positions, competition chair, and eligibility, things like that. So there's a lot of good people that want to be involved with the MCLA. So it makes my job a lot easier. It really is about picking and choosing at times. When we're in season, it's a little harder for me to dedicate time to the MCLA as I'm focused on Georgia Tech, but the MCLA is always right there for me. There's a lot of issues that we're trying to tackle, especially with our national tournament out in California for another 2 years. We're starting to gear up a committee to look at where the future of the tournament will move. Starting in 2017, I'm sorry, at the conclusion of the 2016 season, looking forward. So we've got a lot on our plate of things we need to tackle, and again, I think I'm very lucky that there's some people that want to assist with a lot of different areas to make my job a little bit easier. Trying to balance a lot of things going on, but it's a tricky thing. But having so many people on my committees actually that are West Coast, it makes it a little easier because at least I can have my phone calls at night with a lot of them, which makes it a little easier family time here at the house. To put my son to bed and then maybe get on a conference call a little later at night. So the timing of everything kind of works pretty well for me.
Now, when people hear the term club lacrosse, they don't always think of the high level of competition that the MCLA offers. What are your thoughts on the high level of competition that it has, and what do you attribute its growth to?
The growth itself, it combined forces between the players and coaches and clearly the sport itself. I think the sport and the massive growth it's had, it's maximized its NCAA potential in a lot of areas. And so it's a numbers game. And so these kids that are playing the sport need another place to play. And so, about 10, 12 years ago, behind Jason Lamb and John Paul, some of the leadership of the NCAA back then, the idea was let's create more than just club lacrosse. We wanted to be more than just, ragtag group of guys. We adopted eligibility rules, policies, procedures, and the programs followed suit. And I think they all wanted it. The schools wanted it. It gave them something to be proud of. And not that the players of years ago, they weren't proud of them, but the game itself in terms of just the fundraising, the intensity, the commitment level has certainly changed a lot, and we're all proud of that. I mean, I was part of that original board many years ago, and we were all very excited. And to see where we are now from where we were 10 years ago or even 2 or 3 years ago, it's fantastic. From streaming games to great things like you all are doing right now with this preseason show. These are all things that have just helped develop and show that there's a great additional atmosphere for kids to be able to play college lacrosse and get a great education. So they don't have to just look at NCAA. That the NCAA is providing a very competitive atmosphere for them, both in and off the field, both on and off the field, which we couldn't be prouder of. But really, it's about the players and the wonderful amount of coaches and administrators that have helped support the NCAA over the years.
We turn our attention now to the rest of the conference, looking at Alabama. This is a team that, once again, it seems like the theme here today has quality coaching staff that can kind of make a difference for them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Marcus McCain can bring to the Alabama coaching staff. This is a guy who played competitively at the University of Buffalo, won Pioneer League championships, and played in the MCLA tournament. He was an assistant at the University of Colorado last year and won a national championship. And now he comes to Tuscaloosa to try to rebuild a struggling program. A lot of interesting things with the turnover. The head coach last year was Matt Palasek, a great player who started off at Johns Hopkins and then went to UMass. His younger brother, Chris Palasek, was the team's leading scorer last year. Matt now moves out to make a move for Marcus. Chris is coming up as an assistant coach. Their other older brother, Tommy, is a star player for the New York Lizards. And again, after playing at Johns Hopkins, went on to play collegiately at Syracuse. Matt made the transfer from Johns Hopkins to UMass, as I said before. And as far as personnel is concerned, Matthew Vicinton, a junior attackman that started off his career at Farmingdale State on Long Island. I actually played against him this summer. I was impressed with his speed and his stick skills. Only went 4 and 3 for 7 points last year, but maybe he could be a breakout player for the Tide.
Okay. Pat, do you like Roll Tide?
No, I mean, Roll Tide, you're definitely going to be looking forward to seeing them play the Auburn Tigers and the SELC
Iron
version
Bowl,
of the Iron Bowl. Well, so that's going to be huge. I mean, I think actually it's going to be a bit of a down year for Alabama. I think they're going to be pretty much where they were at last season. This is my limit if that's what you were going with. But because of the fact that you're losing your top 3 scorers, and one guy in particular, the attack, Chris Plasek, 44 points. Your second leading scorer, Ryan Shane, 15 points. That's a huge wide margin when it comes to the scoring end. This team is struggling with putting the ball in the back of the net, so that's definitely something that's going to be hard for them. And I think, as I said, they're going to have a bit of a struggle this year.
Take a look at Georgia. Is the highlight of their season going to be playing in the midnight game?
I think so. They're very excited for it. They saw what the product was when they played North Carolina State last year. They're really pumped up for it. They've had some turnover in the head coaching position as well, but a really solid competitor. In 2007, when my team at Emory won the SELC championship, the University of Georgia was the champion, so it was nice to have a little bit of an in-state sweep there. Georgia has been back to the MCLA tournament as recently as 2013. They have a great rivalry within their conference in Georgia Tech, good old-fashioned hate, and they could really use the blackout game as a momentum builder in order to bring into the SELC tournament and hopefully get back to nationals.
I think also a game Georgia's going to look forward to is definitely, as you just said, Georgia Tech. In my version, that's going to be the Peach Bowl of this thing, because a lot of rivalry in pretty much the SEC version of the SELC in this region.
If you want to watch the midnight game, you can tune into that on the same exact link. Check the Liberty Lacrosse page for the details and the date. We go to Ole Miss and Auburn. Ole Miss, they get a lot of guys out of the Northeast. How are they plucking those fellas?
They really do. I don't know. I don't know if there's something in the water. Maybe it's the Southern Bells that are there, but Ole Miss definitely has a lot of talent. They're bringing in kids from Baltimore, Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland, Massapequa, Long Island. They have a stud out of Nashville, Tennessee, so not so far from home, but it's unbelievable the way that they're able to recruit, also with a lot of turnover with the head coaching position.
Take a look at Auburn. Who knows, Pat? Like, what are they going to do?
I think, unfortunately, this is going to be another team that's going to probably have a down year. The Auburn Tigers only had 2 wins last year. Here, you're going to have to look. They're going to be excited, obviously, playing the Iron Bowl. That's going to be a big thing. But they could be one of the teams. They could be the Florida of this year's SELC, the team that has a losing record and sneaks their way into the SELC tournament, and then, as we saw, all bets are off.
You know, they lost to Florida in overtime last night, 8-7. I think it's very interesting. Everybody who has Auburn on their schedule probably wanted to see Florida win this game by a heavy margin. I mean, especially James Foote. He opens up, UCF opens up against Auburn. I was talking to him earlier this week. He figures that he's pretty evenly matched with the Gators. Of course, they're going to compete for that second spot in the Southeast region. So going into that game, he was hoping that Florida would come up with a big win. He doesn't know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of this. You guys don't. No one really knows what to make of this Auburn team after last night's result.
We take a look at Vanderbilt. Who knows as well? You know, last year they make it. They're doing well. It looks good, and then they lose to a Division II team last night.
Yeah, they lose to Kennesaw State, which good Division II team nonetheless, but still,
it's Division II.
You can't. I understand. You can't be losing that. Come on. But at the same time, you hope that maybe potentially that they're going to be able to turn this ship around if they're able to just right the things. You lost your first game, but you can build from that.
There are some interesting storylines with Vanderbilt's personnel. They return a third-year head coach. They have some parity in the goaltending position. They have a freshman in David Wu, who they think is going to be great, and he'll probably split time with senior Brian Bernstein. Defensively, they return Harlan Broyles. Midfielder, they have Mark Olhoff, who's supposed to be very good. Again, they made the tournament for the first time last year, for the first time in 10 years. A few years ago, they actually took a year away from the SELC, had some administrative issues. The thing about Vanderbilt is they used to be one of the best teams in the SELC. A long time ago, Vanderbilt, Wake Forest, Emory, they were attracting all the Northeast talent for the academics. Now it seems as though high-achieving academics makes it harder to recruit, and a lot of these bigger BCS brand schools are able to push forward, and obviously Liberty's part of that mix as well with everything that they are able to offer to student athletes and great communications departments like this.
You definitely come to play. You don't want to do the schooling. I know that. I played college athletics.
Yeah, talk to Cardell Jones.
Schooling. Hey, when we come back, the fun part's up next. We take a look at some predictions here: Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and we talk about the SELC and the MCLA. Stay with us.
Liberty University offers a wide variety of camps for students of all ages. From taking the field at football camp to making a musical debut in the theater, there is something for everyone. Students can have personal instruction from NCAA Division I coaches and student athletes, while playing in top-notch facilities. Liberty University Summer Camps is one of the only places in the country where you can participate in winter sports during the summer. Learn to ski and snowboard at Snowflex or improve your ice hockey and figure skating skills in our LaHaye Ice Center with our hockey and figure skating coaches and teams. Students will have a great time making new friends and memories while exploring Liberty's campus and growing in their relationship with Christ. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today for the 2015 summer camps at Liberty University.
Are you looking for a unique homeschooling option for your children? With Liberty University Online Academy, you aren't just homeschooling, you're transforming your home into a private Christian school for students grades K through 12. Your kids will receive individualized attention and enjoy hands-on learning in a flexible environment. With curriculum written by Liberty University professors and the option to enroll part-time or full-time, what are you waiting for? For more info, visit libertyonlineacademy.com.
Hi, I'm Kirk Cameron. As a father of 6 children, I recognize the importance of selecting a university that is not only going to prepare my kids for their career, but inspire and empower them to incorporate their faith into all aspects of their life. At Liberty, I believe that parents can rest, assured their kids are going to be surrounded by good, positive influences, allowing them to make the most of their college experience while they train to change their world.
Welcome back. Before we get to the predictions and all the kind of fun, controversial stuff, we'd like to thank everybody for sending in all the footage. You know, all the coaches that took the time to write us back with emails, providing us with information so we could have the show. We really appreciate your contributions. All right, guys, predictions. Let's take a look. Offensive Player of the Year in the SELC. Shoot. What you got?
I'm going to probably go. I think it's a toss-up between Will Goodman and Ryan Miller. I feel like we haven't spoken about Ryan Miller a lot. I feel like whenever we're talking about Liberty Lacrosse, Ryan Miller is really the headliner, even over Ethan Kamholtz. But Will Goodman, you know, with the confidence that Florida State's coming in with, his youth, his ability to score, the way that he performed in clutch situations last year, I think he's the front runner for Offensive Player of the Year.
Do you ever take a look at a guy outside behind the mask and you're like, I didn't expect you to like, I expected, I'll be honest, I met Ryan Miller for the first time the other day and I was expecting like kind of spiky hair, a little bit of a cocky attitude. Super nice guy.
Nope.
Yeah, very low-key.
Very low-key, very humble.
Anyway.
Actually, I'm not going to, because I would say it's going to be Ryan Miller, or because he's probably going to be actually the MCLA's all-time leading point scorer by the time his career's over with. But actually, I'm going to go with another guy from Liberty. I'm going to say the two-way midfielder in Bryce Marakovich. I think he's going to be very key for this team. He's going to be thrust into the leadership role as a captain this season, so I think he's potentially going to be on the cusp of being named the Offensive Player of the Year.
Who's a dark horse in this area?
I think a dark horse in this area, actually, I got him right here from Georgia Tech, Chris O'Brien. He was an honorable mention all-attackman for this team. He's going to be one of the headliners for this attack team on a very stout defensive team. He's definitely going to be one of the dark horses.
I'll take Chad Moore as a dark horse for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he can put the ball in the back of the net. Take a look here, Defensive Player of the Year. You know, is it a goaltender ran thing, or goaltenders usually dominate this trophy, or what is it?
I mean, Pat, you know, pretty much put his points on there. I'll agree with him. I mean, you know, defense wins championships, and your goaltender's your quarterback, your goaltender's your leader. We have a lot of great goalies in the SELC. We've spoken about 3 of them: Brian Cooper from Virginia Tech, Matt Sommerfeld from Georgia Tech, as well as Ethan Kamholtz. I really think it's more of a toss-up between Kamholtz and Sommerfeld. I think that Cooper's just a level below. Kamholtz really diverse. I think that there are 2 different style of goaltenders. I think that Sommerfeld is your traditional Northeast stay-at-home goalie, spark the clear from the crease area. Ethan is more of a spark plug, a fire plug. I'll tell you this: if Ethan Kamholtz could score 1 or more goals this season and continue to keep his GAA the way that it is, I think he's a good shot for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think Ethan Kamholtz, he's actually probably the only goaltender in all the league you could actually plug into your attack unit, and then he fit right in right away. So I definitely think it. But I actually disagree with you. I think Ethan Kamholtz is one of the guys. I think actually it's a 2-man race between him and also the reigning tournament defensive MVP and Brian Cooper. I mean, after watching this guy, he really shuts the door and really lights it up. So I think those are the 2 guys that are your front runners for defensive MVP.
Agree to disagree, disagree to agree.
Yeah, something like that.
Blah, 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 blah. Coach of the Year, who do you guys got?
I like Ken Lovick from Georgia Tech. I think he's going to help this team win the region again, and I think he's definitely going to get things done. And then I don't think they're going to get upset in the first round. I think you're probably going to see them play for the SELC title.
Coach of the Year. I mean, let's just give it to Kyle again. Kyle, how many times have you won SELC Coach of the Year in a row now? You want to know what the thing about winning Coach of the Year is? It's not necessarily being the coach of the championship team or being a perennial powerhouse. It's really actually about sparking an up-and-comer. And I really look at James Foote at Central Florida as a good candidate for this. He's been there for a while, similar to Kyle at Liberty and Adam Rath from South Carolina. James played attack at UCF, so he's one of these former players who's taken over his old programs, and he does it with a lot of passion. You know, again, we said that the SELC is mostly a defensive defensive conference, and it's almost, a race to see who could spark the best offense or hold the teams off the best. UCF has some firepower on offense. Evan Deacon returns. He's been the straw that stirs the drink from the X position, real consistent performer. And then Ian Melback, he transferred to UCF from Mercer, a Division I school, the same year that Chad Moore came here to Liberty. Ian didn't play at all last year. He had a broken hand. He's healthy now. He's ready to play, has really good size, likes to operate from the wing, has a great time in room shot, can really rip it. And I think that if the offense, if Evan and Ian can push the UCF offense forward, then I think that James has a good shot to win Coach of the Year from UCF.
All right, the big question in all this is who is going to win the SELC? You're going to make, I think this guy's
I want to hear what, I got to hear Dave
I don't know. I might not get a ride back to the airport. I'm certainly going to disappoint some more people in Gainesville, but why not feed off the confidence that Florida State has? I mean, I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer with everything that Coach Doyle said earlier this week. They're an offensive powerhouse. They have some things to correct on defense, and they have the staff to do that now. Everybody's excited about Florida State lacrosse. Their coaching staff, their players, their alumni. When I played for Israel's national team, my roommate Jason Center was a current player at Florida State and a team captain there. He helped bring Coach Doyle to Florida State after Bill Harkins was having some health issues. So I'm a buyer with the Seminoles, Faith Family Knowles. I think that they'll win the SELC this year.
I mean, you come into our studio in our town. You can't pick the home team. I'm sorry. I got to go with Liberty. I mean, you can call me a homer all you want on the Twitter boards or on the feed chats or whatever it is you got out there. But I got to go with them. I mean, hopefully I'm not jinxing them. I'm going to knock on some wood here. So they've returned just so much depth. I know they've lost some key guys. You lost your founding fathers in Mike Zampano and Kurt Tobias, but they didn't go too far. They're on your coaching staff right now. Also, they're definitely going to be helping your team, helping Kyle. Those three guys, all former all-conference honorees, really know the game very well, and they're just going to show it in the depth that they've got because we talked about Liberty. They've got a lot of depth.
Give me this. I'll predict SELC championship, Florida State against Liberty. Okay Do I get a ride back to the airport?
There we go. All right, let's move on now and take a look at the SELC, kind of on a national scale in the MCLA. Geographically, it's the largest. There's tons of teams in it. What kind of prevents them, though, from getting more national tournament bids?
It's really the size. It's the size when it comes down to it. The SELC has gotten multiple teams into the tournament in the past, but the way that the MCLA has grown, the way that the SELC has grown, it's hard. It's a very physical conference. You play a lot of in-conference games. You play everyone in your region and then a few games outside of it. And the tournament structure is rough. You have to be one of the top two teams in your region. I mean, we've seen in Division II of the SELC, which does consistently send more than one team to the national tournament, there have been teams that have finished third in their region, not make the SELC tournament, but still get an at-large bid to nationals. And that's because in D2, they're able to schedule a little bit more, play some more national teams. If you're able to get some quality out-of-conference wins against the national, a national power that's going to the MCLA tournament anyway, that propels you up. So I think the physicality of the conference, the size of the conference, and operationally holds them back from getting multiple teams to the tournament. It has nothing to do with skill or coaching expertise. That's all there.
I think also on a national scale, you're probably going to see a lot more teams finish in that top 25. You only saw 3 teams finish in the top 25 last season, and those teams being in Florida State, Liberty, and then the highest ranked team cracking into the top 10, Virginia Tech. I think you look at it, you got probably 5 or 6 teams that are going to finish in the top 25. Those 3 teams I just mentioned. You also got the Georgia Bulldogs. They're definitely knocking at the door for at least being mentioned in the receiving votes category. Georgia Tech, they're going to be there. Also in South Carolina, all these teams are definitely looking to make their way into the top 25 and really cement the SELC as one of the better conferences in all the MCLA.
I'd like to see South Carolina finish the season ranked. A lot of high hopes about them. Again, a dark horse. We'll see if they're able to make it into the SELC. They should win their region. They should perform well. I'd really like to see them crack the top 25.
Take a look here at this beautiful map that's been made for us. The SELC, who do they compare to best? Are they a middle-of-the-pack kind of conference in the MCLA? We know they're not the best, but where do they rank in terms of, competition and just the depth?
As unfortunate to say, I would say that they're kind of in the bottom 4. In my opinion, I think that the GRLC is perennially the weakest conference in the nation. Also have, size issues, a little bit too big for their britches and consistently only get one team in there. The LSA, a lot of those teams in Texas, they just play at a little bit of a lower level. The UMLC has great competition. For a long time, they were the best conference in Division II. St. Thomas, St. John's. Minnesota Duluth is the real power there. They didn't even have an AQ last year, so I think that set them back a bit. But they compare a lot of these teams to a lot of these conferences as far as style of play. The UMLC, a Midwest Hockey Conference, Texas, big football conference, SELC, also football, defensive-oriented, hard-hitting. But again, they're in the bottom 4 as far as the MCLA nationally.
Well, you just heard our opinion about the SELC. Now let's hear the opinion of the president, Doug Horn.
I'm joined with Doug Horn, the president of the SELC. Doug, thanks for taking some time to sit down with us. First, I want to ask you, how long have you been with the SELC, and what's been your role since you've been there?
I got involved with the SELC in 1995 as a board member and became president in 1996. Was president until 2002, and then came back on the board in 2005 as the tournament director, and then recently became president again in 2011. And I'm finishing up with the last year of a 2-year term right now.
Okay. And now, well, since you just talked about it, since the 90s, the SELC's been around and probably even further. Can you just talk about the long, rich history about the SELC and how it's grown to where it is now?
Sure. The SELC was founded as a nonprofit in 1987, the first season being 1988. Okay. There were 8 teams that were founding members of the SELC. The first year, Vanderbilt University won the conference. The conference grew. When I became a member, there were 12 teams. When I first got on the board, and when I stopped being president, there were 22 teams. Currently, going into the 2015 season, there'll be 44 members.
And that's Division I, Anthony?
22 in Division I and 22 in Division II. There have been several people that have been on the board a long time. Buff Grubb, who has coached at Tennessee and Wake Forest, and recently Clemson has been on the board since the early 90s. And Eric Rudolph has been a board member since the beginning in 1987.
And what is it about the SELC that makes it stand out compared to the other conferences in all of the MCLA?
Well, certainly the size. We're in 10 states in the District of Columbia currently. So the size of the SELC, we're twice as large as any other conference. That being said, there's a lot of teams that can travel within our conference, but they don't have to. We're divided into a North and South division. Okay. So the teams from Florida and Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, they play in a division, and then the teams in Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, they play in another division. So the size of the SELC, and certainly the number of schools that have national recognition in academically and athletically, Florida State, Tennessee, Georgia, Georgia Tech. There are a lot of name quality schools that are part of the conference.
Yeah, there are a lot of big name schools, such as you just touched on, like Virginia Tech. I know that's one that comes to mind, and so is Florida State. But something else about the MCLA I think a lot of people don't know, it is a club sport, club lacrosse, and it's different from NCAA lacrosse. But as far as play, it's not too far off. So, like, what would you say are the 2 biggest differences between NCAA lacrosse and then MCLA lacrosse?
Well, certainly with the MCLA, the club status, and it varies from school to school, but the players and the staffs are putting in a lot of time to get the funds in order for their teams to be able to compete. Many of our programs compete nationally and take trips to the West Coast or out to Texas. So that requires some pretty good funding. Probably the other difference that I would think is for a lot of programs, staffing. A lot of volunteer coaches, they might get a stipend, they might not, but the staffing and having all these volunteer assistants, it's a lot of time for practices and for obviously travel and for games, so that's a big commitment. So the staffs certainly are different than the NCAA model.
Pat, that was incredible. Okay. You ran from here all the way across campus to interview Doug Horn. You made it back here before the close. I mean, did you run track here? That was impressive, my man.
I actually did run track here for a bit, so actually he got it. He hit it right on the head. And as you said right there, it wasn't necessarily me. You see on the graphic it says Pat Strawn. That was my twin brother, Patrick Strawn.
Oh, there you go.
Kobe,
yeah,
so.
Kobe Strawn. I got one of those. Ask University of Florida.
Well, as we get near the end of this thing, any final thoughts that you guys have that you kind of want to elaborate on?
Yeah, I'm just excited for the season. I mean, the thing about the SELC is it's kind of like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And already in the scores that we've seen, the 8-7 win, Florida over Auburn in overtime, the loss that Vanderbilt suffered to Kennesaw State. It's a game of craps every time these teams step out on the field, which makes so much parity, so much excitement around this league. It should be a fantastic 2015.
Pat, any Forrest Gump wisdom for us?
I mean, I always have wisdom for you. So, but as Dave just touched on, there's a lot of good rivalries that you're going to see. Georgia Tech, Georgia, Liberty going to play pretty much every game they're going to play. It looks like someone wants to come out and get them. ECU, they've got a chip on their shoulder. They said our senior class really wants to beat NC State. So that's going to be a marquee matchup. Also, the Iron Bowl, just so many different games that you're just going to be looking forward to this coming season.
Yeah, as Pat said, the mainstream sports rivalry game is one of the coolest things about the SELC.
Yes.
Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn, good old-fashioned hate, Georgia, Georgia Tech. Even Vanderbilt, Tennessee is a good game. It's really one of the things that makes the SELC brand so special.
Well, let's go from good old-fashioned hate to thanking everybody that's made this possible. You know, Dave, thank you. Pat, thank you. I'd like to thank all the students in the background that you cannot see for making this all possible, all their hard work. The MCLA, the SELC. We don't know. Florida State, Liberty, Virginia Tech. We're going to have to wait and find out. It's going to be a great year. Have a good day. God bless everybody.